sake, it's going to send you that feed. Have an awesome show.
Welcome to Anything is Possible, hosted by Dr. Cliff Robertson. Over the next hour, you're going to begin to see a future full of the life you have imagined. Listen in close and come to understand that you are a masterpiece with a mission. Now, here is Dr. Cliff Robertson with Anything is Possible.
You know, I love that last statement about, you are a masterpiece with a mission. We're going to talk more about that today. But I want to start off today with a joke, if I could. I'm a former air traffic controller in the Navy, and I keep trying to tell air traffic controller jokes, but it's sometimes difficult to get them to land. That's supposed to be funny. Anyway, no, when I was serving in the Navy, we were doing some training work off the Atlantic coast, and during the day, air traffic controllers in the Navy on aircraft carriers don't do a lot. I mean, it's pretty simple. The pilots are flying VFR, which means visual flight rules. They don't really need radar to help control them. So they're kind of doing their own thing. But when they take off, we initiate radar contact and all that. So we were working departure, getting the radar contact off the deck, and I was training a guy, and all the pilots have these different personalities, and this one pilot that flew the S3 Viking, which was a carrier-based submarine hunter. It was a jet, and but this pilot sounded just like Elmer Fudd. I'm telling you, he sounded just like Elmer Fudd, and it was kind of the running joke. And so I had this new guy that was training on departure, and he had never heard it before, but we didn't really think about that. We could see him. We could see this S3 pilot coming up in the in the launch and getting on the catapult to launch off the end of the deck. And we were all just kind of joking because we knew we were going to hear that voice again, and that voice was kind of cool, kind of funny. And so he gets up there, he does his salute. He hits the full throttle and takes off, and he goes 702 airborne, and my trainee on departure says, 702 radar contact, continue on course. And then the pilot said something else. I forget what it was. It was a standard thing. And my trainee turns around and looks at us and says, "Man, that guy sounded just like Elmer Fudd." And we're laughing and joking. Yeah, you should have heard this or that. And then somebody from the other room comes running in and says, "You guys have a hot mic. That's just gone out all over the ship." And what we didn't realize is the trainee still had his microphone foot pedal depressed, which it made it easier to write and keep up with everything, point on the screen. So we had foot pedals for our micro, to activate our microphone, and he still had it down. And everything that was being said, including what we were saying behind the scenes, was being broadcast all over the ship, all over the air, radio waves, and all that. And we thought we were done. We thought we were dead, not physically dead, but we thought that, we're going to be on the next flight or helicopter launch out of there. And we're all talking about how not really talking. We were just we couldn't breathe. And then after what seemed like an eternity, because the radio was dead silent, and after what seemed like an eternity, the pilot keyed back up and said, "Be very, very quiet. We're hunting submarines." And everybody on the ship that could hear it laughed. And then everybody else that couldn't hear it heard about it later, and they were laughing. And literally it felt like the ship just laughed and just shook with laughter all over. I mean, the ready rooms where the pilots hang out, they get that radio, and they were laughing. The bridge where the captain is, it was hilarious. Our commander comes in, and he's trying to give us a stern talking to, and he's busting out laughing. He's having a hard time doing it. He just basically just stopped and said, "Okay, don't do that again. Okay, just don't." And we said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course. Of course. That story is actually published in Humor in Uniform. I shared that with my dad, and he wrote it down and sent it in, and he never did share with me any money from it, but I think he's probably paid for it in other ways. But anyway, it was just one of those moments. And sometimes in life we can laugh off problems and kind of just kind of, okay, well, that was funny, that wasn't very good, but and sometimes we can't. Sometimes the challenges that we go through are heartbreaking, they're heartrending. Sometimes the mistakes that we make are horrible. Not that we intended them to be horrible, just that we made some really poor choices, and they could be destructive. I'll tell you in my own life, if you've listened to this show any length of time, you've heard my story. I've shared it several times, where I made horrible choices after not getting the help that I needed, after I had sustained, a pretty heavy loss of my wife and little girl in a car accident. And go back and listen to the first show in this series, and you'll see that. But what was interesting is at the say interesting. What was amazing is at the point of my very lowest, and I realized that I couldn't do this on my own. That's when I believe that God intervened in my life, and God showed me a way through this, to grow through it and to build through it. And that's been the kind of story of my life. And in that dark place, there's a passage that he gave me, and for those of you that are that like the Bible, it's Ephesians 2:10, and it says in the New Living Translation, "For you are God's masterpiece, created anew in Christ Jesus for the good work I've ordained for you from the beginning of time." And this ties back to that statement, "You're a masterpiece with a mission," because if you condense it down to its very basics, you see that that's what it's saying, is that you are a masterpiece and you have a mission. You may be saying, you don't know me, you don't know who I am, you don't know what I've done, you don't know my story, you don't know my history, you don't know my education, you don't know my socioeconomic status, you don't know my ethnicity, you don't know who my parents were, you don't know the mistakes that I've made. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know any of that. But I'm going to tell you that does not diminish the fact that you are a masterpiece, and each masterpiece has a mission. Now, we're going to talk about that today. And what I really want you to get from today's show is truly, as the show's name is called, anything is possible. Anything is possible for you. And we're going to figure that out today. In the vast tapestry of existence, each one of us is a unique masterpiece. We have a unique mission. We have a unique purpose. And I had the opportunity to share this with an international conference last week when I was in Reno. And what I told them is that you are a masterpiece, and you have this unique mission. And the truth is, that mission is so important that if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. And if it doesn't get done, people will suffer unnecessarily, because you have the capacity to do more than you think is possible. But in that vast tapestry of existence, each one of us, you are a unique masterpiece, sculpted by the hands of time, experience, and God Almighty. Yet it is common to overlook this inherent brilliance. Yeah, I'm talking about you, especially when faced with setbacks, failures, the weight of unmet expectations, and tragedy and horrible choices. But let me tell you something profound. You are a masterpiece with a mission, regardless of your past accomplishments or mistakes. Yes, you are. So what makes you a masterpiece? It's not about the successes you've achieved or the accolades you've collected. Rather, it's about recognizing the intricate blend of strengths, weaknesses, experiences, and aspirations that make you who you are. Every scar, every flaw, every imperfection adds depth and character to your story. And your story matters. Your mere existence, with all its complexities and contradictions, is a testament to the beauty of this human existence. And some people say, well, yeah, but what kind of difference am I really making? You make more of a difference than you can, than you can imagine. And we're going to talk about more of those in a minute, but I just want to say some more in this. Even if you haven't reached the heights you aspire to or stumbled along the way, it doesn't diminish your worth. It doesn't. And that's because you're a masterpiece. Mistakes are not marks of failure, but rather they're stepping stones on the path to growth and self-discovery. Embracing your flaws and learning from your failures is an integral part of the journey towards realizing your full potential. In other words, every time you swung the bat and missed, if we learn from it, we get a little better next time. If we learn from it, we get a little better next time. And here's the thing. That doesn't mean that we're going to get to a point where we can hit the ball every time it's thrown. It does, because that what's coming at us is always changing, but it gives us the capacity to see it through a different set of eyes, a better set of eyes, and continue to sharpen and get better and really be able to see what we're capable of. So what I really want you to get from this today is that don't allow your past to define and thereby create your future. Think about that a minute. If we allow our past to dictate the terms of our future, then we're a slave to it. We're prisoners to that past. Whether it's good or bad, whatever it is, we become prisoners, and it stifles our capacity to be creative. It stifles our capacity to grow. It stifles everything about us. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that anymore, because chances are you have lived that way. One of the things that oftentimes comes out is that people have this false sense that the rest of the world has it so great and they're all so perfect. But me, I'm just a bum. I'm just kind of a failure, and I haven't gotten anything right. And the truth is, we all struggle. We're all battling something. We're all, in this, and we want to be in this to win this, as we say. But when reality checks in on us, we're like, wow, that didn't turn out so good, or that didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. And what we see on social media from people are, well, if it's celebrities, chances are those pictures have been modified, airbrushed, all those things. I remember watching an edition of The Voice the other night, and John Legend was talking about the pictures on the wall of all the of all the coaches, and he said, yeah, that has been heavily doctored, modified, and airbrushed to look as good as it does, because we don't look that good in real life. That's just the truth. Everybody wants to put their best foot forward, purvey this image, but what happens is we think that's the reality, because there's this theory in psychology called the social comparison theory, where we are almost constantly comparing ourselves to someone else. And that is just not reality. It's not reality at all. And so what are we to do with that? How are we to adapt? How are we to say, wow, we are, we're not that. And the truth is, we are never going to be that. We were not supposed to be that. And if we continue to compare ourselves to other people, we're never going to be happy. We're never going to complete ourselves. So what I want you thinking about, we're going to be going to a break here in a couple of minutes. What I want you to think about is how many people over the course of a week you come in contact with, you interact with at some level. Okay. Maybe it's going to work and you interact with different people because of your job. You interact with people when you go to the store to buy groceries. Maybe you go to church, maybe you're involved in other social activities. How many people over the course of a week do you come in contact with? And I want you to keep that number close, because it's going to be important as we walk into this next segment, because as we walk into this next segment, we're going to use those numbers because I really believe it's important. And we're going to do an exercise called Do the Math. And I really want you to know that your impact over time is far greater than you could probably even consider. But as we wrap up this segment, as we close out this segment, the thing that I want you ringing in your thing that I want ringing in your head is that you are more than capable. You're more than an overcomer. I love that passage in the Bible that we're more than an overcomer through him. And I can do all things. Ask and it shall be given. There's all these positive things that that come from the Bible. But what we have to do is we have to realize that those things really were written for us and about us. And I'm not here to preach today. What I really want you to think about is your self-esteem when it is dictated by the wrong things drives us into the ditch, drives us into the deepest parts of the ocean of despair. But if our self-esteem is based on the right things, based upon how we should be viewing ourselves, not as a means of social comparison, not as a means of something else. If we're basing our self-esteem off the right things, we can embrace the fact that we are a masterpiece. We can begin to see that life is different than we imagine. And here's the closing statement. Here's the closing statement of the segment. We're going to get back. We're going to step into a little bit more, and I know I got to go. You are more valuable to this world than you could ever begin to fathom. Thank you for hanging with me. We got another segment coming up in just a minute. This is Dr. Cliff Robertson Jr. with Anything is Possible, and you are a masterpiece for the mission, and that's what we're talking about today, and we'll be right back.
Great job. All clear. Back in about a minute and 30.
You're tuned in to Anything is Possible with Dr. Cliff Robertson. If you have a question for Dr. Robertson or his guests, you can join us on the show at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. Now back to the show with Dr. Cliff Robertson.
And welcome back. And again, as the sweet lady that introduces me tells you, if you have questions you wanna call in, please feel free to do. We'd love to take your questions live today. And if you have questions and you hear this later, please feel free to send me a message. You can do that through email at drcliff@drcliffrobertsonjr.com. You can go to my website. You can see that. One other thing I wanted to mention is that I am a keynote speaker, trainer. I do workshops where we talk about these very same things. And I'm even working on a corporate retreat in the future. I come at this from a mental health perspective. So what I really want people to get to is a place where they are healthy mentally and emotionally. And that's where I'm going, because when we have it together in that way, we are we can be amazing. But when we're not okay, when we're struggling with who we are and why we are and all that, we don't want to get out of bed. We just want to kind of diminish and fall in the back. So your self-esteem can become your psychological superpower when you begin to believe in yourself in such a way that you know that showing up in the very best version of yourself today changes the world, makes the world a better place. And see, it doesn't have to be like you are some world changer, millions of views kind of person in order to do that. You could just be impacting the right person, the right one person. Give you a story. I love to tell stories, and I can I can share this one from the heart. And there's two that I'll share. One is there was this guy that I was counseling, and I will never give any names, um, ever. But he was really struggling. He had, him and his wife were having challenges and troubles, and he had moved out, and there had been restraining orders and all kinds of stuff. And I'm not here to judge or even talk about that, but he was in the pit of despair. We'll just put it that way. He was in a bad place, and he was talking like, my life is over. Um, Not sure there's any purpose for me to even be here anymore. So we began to talk a little bit. We began to talk about how many people on a regular basis he interacted with. Well, his job, he interacted with about 20 to 30 new different people every week. Okay. He helped out at his church. He set up and greeted and all that. So that was probably another 20 to 30 new people each week. And then you do schools, with taking kids to school or interacting at the grocery store in positive ways. So we figured that he was interacting with, conservatively 50 people new each week that he may have not seen before. It could have been more, but let's just take that 50 number. 50 people a week. Well, if you do the math, and this is where this is going, we did the math with him, and over the course of 52 weeks, um, that's a lot of people. I mean, 52 times 50, that's 2,600 people. That is filling some small high school basketball arenas. Over the course of, let's just say 5 years, that's filling major basketball arenas. Over the course of 10 years, you're filling, the Staples Center. Over the course of a lifetime, you're filling multiple, NFL football stadiums. Think about that a minute. The impact you have in just doing what you do on a regular basis. This is what I told him, is life-changing for many. Life-changing. And it's not that you're out there saving the whales, or you're coming up with a cure for cancer. You're just having a positive impact on somebody's life. Maybe it's opening a door, maybe it's a kind word, maybe it's a smile, maybe it's a hand up, maybe it's a hand out, whatever it is. Just that many people over the course. Maybe it's just part of your job, but it's having that sort of impact. And when he really got latched onto that, it was like, wow. I mean, wow. That's cool. That's important. So let's step this back. I mean, that's a real story. And now he is, he's in a far better place. He uses that tool on a regular basis to help him when he struggles. Kids and life and family are doing great. The marriage didn't make it, but he's since gotten remarried, and life is good for him. And it all came back to figuring out really who he was and how important he is. Um, let me break this down even further with another story. One of my favorite stories to tell, and I'm sure I've told it on here before, but I'm going to tell it again because some of you, this may be your first time listening. And even if it's not, you need to hear it again so that way you can share it with other people. All these stories are absolutely shareable. There was this guy that always bought coffee for one person behind him. Always bought coffee for the guy or the gal behind him. Every morning he went through the coffee drive-through, and we're not going to mention brand names, but it starts with an ST and ends with an S, so you can figure it out from there. Who knows? Maybe they'll become a sponsor one day soon. That'd be great. Anyway, so he bought the coffee for the person behind him. And he never gave it a second thought. But one Saturday, when he was reading his newspaper and just kind of wondering, does it even matter? Does doing that for somebody else? Because he was getting ready to go out and get his coffee, which was his normal routine. He read the newspaper, went and got his coffee, and came back home or went to work, did whatever he was doing that day. But that was a Saturday, and he picked up the newspaper and he was flipping through it and found this section of editorials. And there was a letter to the editor that said, "A cup of coffee saved my life." So he got his attention, and he started talking about the very coffee store that he went to, the very same one that this guy went, and how this guy in front of him that he's never met, didn't know, bought him a cup of coffee without knowing him, without caring. And you see, that day, that guy said, "And I was planning to go get my coffee, enjoy it as I sat out in the field, and ended my life because I was done. My life was worthless. I felt like there was no value, and I knew that I was more valuable dead than alive. At least that's what I thought." And he goes on to say, when he got that cup of coffee and he went to pay for it, and the lady said, "No charge. The guy in front of you took care of you." He started crying. He didn't know what to do with that. He was overwhelmed with the gratitude that somebody cared enough to buy him a simple cup of coffee. And in doing so, it completely turned him around. Just that one interaction completely turned it around for him. Just that one. He ended up buying coffee for the person behind him. He went home and he got his life together. And not long after that, he was getting the help that he really needed. He got the help he needed. He got back, being a gainful member of society and helping others and sharing his story and how his story has made a difference in other people's lives. And it all came back to that one person caring enough for someone they didn't know daily. It saved someone's life. And now that one life has impacted thousands of others. And it can be that simple for you too. That man was a masterpiece with a mission. Now, let's talk about your mission. Yeah, you knew we'd get to it. See, each one of us is born with a unique purpose, a calling that beckons us, that calls us to make our mark on the world. But how do you uncover this amidst all the noise and chaos of everyday life? You think, I don't know, I don't really have any gifts. That's what we think. But it starts with just a little introspection, with delving deep into your passions, your values and beliefs, what ignites your soul. And this was one of those moments that I had, like the other day when I was getting ready to speak at the at the big conference. I remember thinking to myself, I would do this regardless of whether they paid me or not, because I love sharing this. I love doing this so much. I love it more than anything else I do, is getting to share, getting to make an impact on people, getting to intervene in their lives with stories that make them think, make them question, challenge them, push them. Maybe it allows them to step out of their comfort zone a little bit. I remember having that, that talk with myself, and I've had it before, but it was just so, um, enlightening. It just, because a lot of times I can get really nervous before before one of those talks. And, it just hit me, this overwhelming sense of gratitude that this is my calling. This is my mission, doing what I'm doing now with you, hearing this. This is part of who I am. This is part of my why. So when I look deep about what ignites my soul, it's this. It's speaking, it's sharing, it's doing the research and preparing for this, not just doing it, but I mean being intentional and intentionally wanting to, to have that impact and make sure that you're getting, everything that I can give you today. So again, I'm going to ask you, what ignites your soul? What brings you a sense of fulfillment and purpose? You see, this isn't about becoming overnight millionaires. This isn't some reel you see on Facebook or Instagram that says you too can make blah 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 blah. All you have to do is pay this little fee and you're going to get all this blah blah blah, and you're going to be making 4, 5, 6, 7 figures, whatever it is. No, that's not what this is about. And good Lord knows, I hope that you do that. What I really want you to do is find that thing that brings a sense of fulfillment and purpose in your life. Something that, again, that you would do even if you didn't get paid. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that we have to get paid, because this world isn't free. We don't live in socialism 101 where everybody gets the same amount. No, this is real life, and we have to really make sure that we are fully engaged, and that requires us to earn a living. But sometimes that earning of a living can be our mission. It can be something as simple as the teacher who wants to impact the kids in their class, in his or her classroom. My wife is a retired school teacher, and so I know it. She did not do it for the money. She got paid, but she wasn't there for the money. She was there because the impact it has on her kids, on the kids, and she still hears from kids that she taught from the very beginning of her career. So I mean, it's things like that, and maybe it's the nurse, the frontline worker in healthcare that's interacting with the patients, interacting with the trauma that comes in, interacting with them, and maybe that's your mission, or maybe it's the inventor, or maybe it's the CEO that's building and creating this entity, and it's alive, and that's his purpose. His purpose is impacting the lives of the products they sell, the people they serve, and the lives that are engaged in the company. Maybe that's his or her mission. But I want you to pay attention to something. I want you to pay attention to the whispers of your heart, for they hold the key to unlocking this mission inside you. You may not know what that is today, but one of the things I want you to do is I want you to write down one thing that you would do today, that you would love to do every day, whether you got paid for it or not. Just one thing. And really think about that and figure out how you might be able to do that on a regular basis. Now, in this next segment, we're getting ready to go to a break again. In this next segment, we're going to work to identify how you can release the full potential of this masterpiece with a mission that we're talking about. We're going to use some more military terms too, which, of course, I love talking about the military, but we're gonna talk about that, and we're really going to dive in, because one of the things that I've found is that when we walk through this, when we really get a hold of who we are and our why, it helps us to overcome things like burnout. It helps us to gain a greater sense of resilience. In other words, how we overcome the struggles. But see, when we get locked in to knowing that we can overcome the struggle, what do we do then? Well, now we put that gas pedal to the floor and take the next step. So I want you to hang on with me. But one thing I want you to do before we leave this segment, and I mean it, I really want you to do it. And I would love for you to send me an email letting me know that you've done it and what it is. And if you say don't share it, that's fine. But send me an email at drcliff@drcliffrobertsonjr.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Find out what your mission is, what that is for you. So I'd love for you to share that with me. Again, it's drcliff@drcliffrobertsonjr.com. I'd love for you to go there and do that. And for those of you that are looking for a keynote speaker, a trainer to come in to fire up the troops and get them back locked into their mission and their purpose, I'd love to talk to you too. You can send me an email as well, or you can call me at 832-299-4137. I answer my own phone. I'd love to talk to you. And if you're interested in having a conversation about that, love to hear from you. Listen, we're just about out of time for this segment. We got one more segment to go after this. But no, I want you to hang on, because this next segment is going to talk to you about how you take that mission that you've figured out and take it to the next level, to unleash your full potential with whatever that is, impacting the world, changing lives, saving lives. We'll be right back. This is Dr. Cliff Robertson Jr., and I'm so glad you're here.
You're tuned in to Anything is Possible with Dr. Cliff Robertson. If you have a question for Dr. Robertson or his guests, you can join us on the show at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. Now back to the show with Dr. Cliff Robertson.
Hey, and it is so good to be back with you guys for this final segment today. It's one of those things where you really get locked into this, and that's where I am today. I'm really excited to be here and talking to you about this masterpiece with a mission concept. And when I say that, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you are a masterpiece. It has nothing to do with who you are necessarily, the mistakes you've made, and all that. It's really about the fact that you make a bigger impact on this world than you could ever begin to imagine. And what I really want you to hear that from me, because when we hear that and we begin to lock into the fact that, yeah, I really am, that bolsters who we know that we are. And when we can start to view ourselves as a masterpiece, and that masterpiece has a mission, we find that purpose, and it becomes this psychological superpower inside of us, that it's not about, pounding our chest or looking to see who we are and all that. Really, it's about beginning to believe and dream again. And you see, once we've identified this in ourselves and we've identified our mission, the next step is to begin to unleash our full potential and ignite the fires of passion and determination within ourselves. So, to me, life is too short and too uncertain to play small. I'm not saying that anybody should go and leave their job and strike out on some sort of pilgrimage. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I would never tell you to do that. What I will tell you to do is don't play small. Once you've identified this mission, I want you to seek out to do something every day to make it that step forward. Seek to plug in, to find new ways to blow it up. You see, there's this military term. It's called fire for effect. And I love that statement, fire for effect. It's military, and it signifies delivering a concentrated barrage of firepower to achieve maximum impact on the target. I want to say that again, because I think you really need to hear it. Fire for effect signifies delivering a concentrated barrage of firepower to achieve maximum impact on the target. And that's what we need to be doing in our lives. that doesn't mean that that we're, like I said, going to become the next internet or TV sensation. What it does mean is we can have a bigger impact than we are today. We can do more. Maybe it goes back to your job. What what you're doing. Maybe you're that teacher that's feeling burned out right now. Maybe you're that that nurse or that medical professional that is just you're done. You dread going to work, and when you were training for that, you were so excited about the lives you were going to help and the illnesses you were going to cure, and all that. And today you're just this empty shell. Or maybe you're the CEO, or maybe and you're thinking, I've built all this, but why? I'm empty inside. Or you're the first responder, you're the military person, or maybe you're the the one working at home. There's all sorts of different things that it could be for you, and you're just like, I feel empty. Well, what we can do is we can take this newly identified masterpiece and mission, and we can do what this military term means in Fire for Effect. We can focus it. Maybe it goes back to that classroom, and you want to make as big an impact on these kids as possible. Or maybe you're a college professor, or maybe you're teaching some sort of vocation, and you want to, maybe we need to step it up a bit. Maybe we need to go back to school to get a little better. Maybe we need to be taking courses so that we can help our students be just that much better. Maybe we need to bring other people in to help show them real life. Or maybe, again, maybe it goes back to, like I said, healthcare, where, it's, there's the, um, there's a burnout. I remember talking with my grandmother who was a nurse for a very long time, and there'd be days when she just didn't want to go to work, and she trained for this. She did this. She lived this, and she wanted to help people. And she'd tell me story after story about how this happened and this emergency came in and they did this to save this life, and it was all exciting. And you can see the fire in her eyes as she was talking about it. And what she found she needed to do is she needed to, because she wouldn't take time off because they would be short staffed, and she would sacrifice her own personal well-being so that she thought everything would be okay. But what was happening was she was slowly but surely killing herself in the process, killing herself mentally, emotionally, wearing herself out physically. So when she started taking that time off and re-energizing and reigniting, and she was able to really focus and get, and make an even bigger difference. And the same can be true for you that's that's working in corporate America, and you never take any time off. You're never taking some time to sharpen your own skills and all that. You're always focused. You become that firefighter in your organization, where you're constantly putting out fires, and you wake up anticipating what's the next fire going to be, instead of how can we grow beyond that. And that's that Fire for Effect. That's delivering a concentrated barrage of firepower to help sure we are maximizing our impact. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what would that look like? What would it look like if you were able to identify this mission of yours, and you were able to focus some real time to it and really help it to become all it could be? You see, in the context of your mission, it literally means channeling your energy, your focus, and your resources toward realizing that goal. Maybe you're a salesperson and you want to make this happen, but there's so many different things pulling at you. Maybe it's time to create boundaries. Maybe boundaries are the challenge. You can't be all things to all people, but you can do a few things really, really, really well. But you can't seem to even get those things done anymore because you're being yanked in 1,000 different directions, whatever those are for you. But if you focus, that focused barrage, that concentrated barrage of firepower, focused on that mission of yours, and the world changes. Overnight, it can get better. Overnight, over the course of a little bit of time, you'll really see the results. And all of a sudden, you're looking at, why haven't I been doing this all my life? And so many times we just don't take the time to identify this. What would it look like if you went all in? What would it look like if you got that education so you could do even more, so you could give even more? What would it look like? What would it look like? And I want to tell you something. When you do that, when you really focus that energy and focus the resources toward realizing your goals and fulfilling that mission, the world becomes a better place. It may not bring about world peace. It may not solve world hunger. It may not be a cure for cancer. But if it helps one more person, just one, breathe a little easier, smile a little more, maybe it saves their life, like the guy with coffee. Maybe it just helps them get through the day a little better. Life has become better for you. Life has become all the things you want it to be. That's a good thing. That is an absolute beautiful thing to do. So that's what I want you to think about. And you see, it's not just about working harder. It's about working smarter. How can you leverage your strengths, cultivate resilience, bring other people into this mission? Because see, here's the thing. People are attracted to other people who are on a mission. And if you're on a mission and it's more than just you, it's about more than just you. People are drawn to that. People want to impact it. And so it's about leveraging these strengths, this time, this talent, these treasures, and staying committed to the vision, even in the face of adversity. And this is going to cultivate resilience, which is going to help you in every other aspect of your life. See, it's about aligning your actions with your purpose and letting nothing stand in the way of your mission. And that gets back to creating boundaries. If it's not helping you take that step toward that mission, toward that purpose, toward that why of your life, it's literally holding you back. So I want you to think about that for a moment. What do you need to eliminate in your life? What do you need to not be doing? Maybe it's you don't need to be spending as much time on social media and watching endless reels. I can tell you that it happens to us all. It happens to me. And I talk about it. And I sometimes find myself, because they're funny, they're fun, they're humorous, they just draw you in, and that's their purpose, and they're very good at it. But we have to have that boundary. And when we create that boundary, we're able to focus more. Because see, in the military world of fire for effect, if we just fire indiscriminately, we never really know if we're achieving any sort of goal or purpose. But if we're focused and we go all in at that one place, maybe two, but we're all in, we can see the impact, the promise, the positive that we're doing. We can see it, we can feel it, we can know it, and that is energizing to us. That helps us go on to take that next step. You see, discovering that you're a masterpiece with a mission is akin to rediscovering something else. You see, so many of us have stopped dreaming. And when we stop dreaming, that fire inside of us goes out. But when we rediscover this mission inside of us, it's like rediscovering fire for the second time in human history. But this time, it doesn't burn on the outside, it burns within you. It's a realization that you possess the power to shape your destiny, to leave an indelible mark on the world, and to live a life of meaning and significance that you can be proud of, that leaves a legacy. So I want you to embrace this. I want you to embrace the fact that you are a masterpiece. You matter more than you could ever begin to imagine. And you have a mission that you need to go all in with. And let that inner fire illuminate the path forward. For you're not just a mere mortal, you are a masterpiece. And you have an extraordinary impact that the world awaits. The world is waiting for you to do this. And if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. If it doesn't get done, people's lives are impacted. People can suffer. Maybe even lives are lost. You say, well, that's an awful heavy thing to put on a person. And I'm going to say, yeah, it's that important. You are that kind of important. And I want you to believe that. I want you to begin to get wrapped around that. I want to thank you guys for your time today. Again, my name is Dr. Cliff Robertson Jr., and I'm a keynote speaker, motivational, inspirational. I do workshops and training on some of these topics and others. A couple other of my topics are lead like your life depends on it. I also talk about emotional intelligence and AI, emotional intelligence in an AI world, leadership in a brave new world. Do a lot of things like that. And I'd really love the opportunity if you're looking for someone to speak at your event, your company, your association, your conference. I would love to be in that conversation. You can reach me at Dr. Cliff at drcliffrobertsonjr.com or at 832-299-4137. I'd love to talk to you. Again, I want to thank you for being with me today. And I want you to know that truly, when we begin to get wrapped around the idea that we are a masterpiece with a mission, truly anything becomes possible for you. The two go hand in hand. It's that masterpiece mindset that I want you to get wrapped around. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, this is Dr. Cliff Robertson Jr., and I will see you next week.